Hello, YouTube. How are you doing? Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, looks like I'm frozen. Oh, there we go. Now we're back on Instagram. So happy holidays. Merry Christmas. I hope you're well. Whatever holidays you celebrate, this is a holiday season. So whatever it is, whatever your beliefs are. If you have no beliefs, if you are not religious at all, I am not religious. You know what? I appreciate the holiday season, not because I, believe, first of all, that December 25th was Jesus' birthday. It's actually clear that if Jesus lived at all, if it's real, he was born in July, based on the astronomy, based on the stars in the sky. But it doesn't matter. What I appreciate about this holiday is, this time of year, is people are maybe thinking a little bit less about themselves and often focused on helping or giving to others. And I'd like to see all of us living life that way all the time, every day of the year. And so I appreciate this time of year because it's a reminder that love is the most important thing there is. For me, I was asked a question the other day. As I frequently point out to my clients, we are not our physical bodies, right? We're not the physical body. So a young client said to me, if we're not the physical body, what difference, why should we take care of the body? Okay. And it's a fair question. The answer is very simply that the physical body is a vehicle. For me, okay, we are spiritual beings. We're the body will die. We don't. We live on forever, but the physical body is gone. And if you disagree with me, that's okay with me. We don't have to agree on this, but I'm just sharing with you my belief. And the physical body is gone. It's just a vehicle. In the same way that the car that's sitting outside in the garage, someday, hopefully someday soon, I'll be able to trade that in for something better. It's 28 years old and I'm constantly fixing stuff. It's an old Suzuki Sidekick. I'd like to have something a little nicer, a little newer than that, a little more powerful. Maybe we live on top of a mountain, it would be helpful. But even when I trade in a vehicle I really, really love, it's not a tragedy. I'm just going to get a new vehicle. Same thing with this. So what difference does it make? Well, the difference is that the journey is a lot more pleasant when the vehicle's in good shape. Okay, the average person, especially as we age, we spend increasingly more time focused on health, going to doctors and getting this checkup and that test and having to fix stuff and work on stuff. Taking drugs, etc. I literally haven't had to think about my health or invest money in my health in 34 years, with the exception of trauma. Obviously, broken bones, accidents. I'm physically active. I'm not as physically active right now as I'd like to be because I don't have so much free time because it's been so busy this past year for me, busier than ever. But normally I'm body surfing and surfing a little bit, not very well. Riding motorcycles, quadricycles, and mountain bikes and rock climbing. And these are some of my favorite things to do when I have a chance to do them. And there's injuries sometimes. Okay. But aside from that, this vehicle runs really, really well because I cleaned all the garbage out of it and I put high quality fuel into it for 29 plus years now. Okay. And that's the reason why to take care of this. Ultimately, it's about being the best person, the best version of myself possible. And one of the things I hope to do by being that best version is, let go of all the garbage that I'm carrying around. All those beliefs that most people have, like I'm not good enough and I don't belong here and there's something wrong with me and I'm not lovable and I'm not capable of loving other people. And all those beliefs that most people are carrying around is like the shade on the lamp. So there's a bulb in here which shines light in all directions, but that light is not going out in these directions because of these beliefs. Beliefs are like this lampshade, okay? If we have beliefs that are, completely cover us, surround us, then there's no love that's being that's leaving. That's being projected. Okay, we're not. My phone was ringing. We're not experiencing any of that. Okay, so the thing to do instead is to learn to let go of all of that garbage, to let go of all of it, to understand who we truly are. Okay, to become the best version of ourselves possible, so that we can truly express in every moment who we are, what we are. In fact, I'm going to share with you here at the beginning of this session, one of my closest friends, like a brother to me, is a Sufi minister and wrote something called the Love Declaration, a covenant. And here's what he had to say. He said, "I am your partner in awakening from fear. From this moment on, at all times, under all conditions, I declare I am and I will be for all beings a conscious source of absolute love. And I promise I will serve only this love in you, in me, and in all, no matter what, for the rest of my life." Okay, that's by Reverend David Secord. And, it's beautiful. And I think it's what we need to be doing. I mean, here we are living in the craziest time I've seen in my nearly 60 years on the planet, with people running around scared of what is essentially almost nothing. It's just another flu season. And yet, countries are locked down and people are dying. Far more people are dying from lockdowns and from depression, the suicide, because they've lost their businesses and they're losing their homes and their livelihood, et cetera, et cetera. And, we're living in this crazy, crazy time. And people are living more than ever from a place of fear, which is always a serious problem. Most people are more motivated by fear than anything else, most of the time. And that's where people are currently living from. And fear is the absence of love. So if we were all able to let go of all this crap we're carrying around and simply be the absolute expression of love that we actually are, that we already are. We don't have to become anything. That's what we are. If we could do that, there would be no fear. Okay, we'd be living from a completely different place, able to make conscious, intelligent choices on an ongoing basis. Okay, maybe this is why I'm able to make conscious, intelligent choices. Not always, perhaps, but the vast majority of the time, for many, many years. Okay, this is what works. This is where we need to go. And so for me, this is what this holiday season is all about. And I hope, if you're here with me today, that's wonderful. That's a gift you've given yourself. You're exposing yourself. There are other things you could be doing, right? But you're giving yourself the gift of a higher level of health and consciousness. And what's more important than that? I don't think there is anything more important than that. Okay? So I'm glad you're here with me. If you're here with me on Instagram, I'm glad to see you here. If you're here with me on YouTube, I'm glad you're here as well. We have some questions here on YouTube. Let me say hello to who's here. Shalom Aleichem. Hello there. Shalom, Loren. Is it equally harmful to the body to bleach your hair as it is to dye your hair? It's a good question, and I don't know the answer. And I'll always tell you, by the way, when I don't know the answer. The question is the hydrogen peroxide used to bleach hair, is it pickling your brain? Is it negatively impacting you? Is it as toxic to you as most hair dyes? I don't know. I think what's true is that maybe it's a little bit less harmful. Maybe it's a little bit more harmful. And it's probably not exactly the same. But my question is, why do anything harmful? I mean, I understand that people want to change their look, etc. I get it. I mean, listen, I have a lot less hair. I've got a lot more forehead than I used to. That's what all this damage is from, because I had all that wasn't exposed most of my life. Now it's all exposed to the sun. I've been, severely sunburned my forehead many, many times. I wouldn't mind having more hair. A lot of people my age color their hair, and I think it often looks silly. But personally, I'm just willing to just be who I am. This is me, and it is what it is, and I'm not covering anything up. You know, what you see is what there is. I'd love to see everyone become comfortable enough with themselves as they are. You know, rather than coloring your hair, why not change your clothes? You know, wear a different style. You know, I mean, I'm not really a fan of makeup, but there's always makeup and jewelry and clothing and other things we can do. You can wear hats instead of changing your hair color. I mean, I wouldn't personally recommend doing anything which is going to be harmful to you in any way when you can avoid it. And much better to become really comfortable with yourself and less concerned about what we look like. You know, I'm very conscious of how I look because I sit here every week for many hours. I mean, when I'm doing Skype calls, hours every day, I can see myself as well as my clients. So when I'm doing live broadcasts, I can see myself. I'm sitting here looking at myself for an hour twice a week, every week, and sometimes more often than that. You know, I mean, I'm conscious because I'm looking at it all the time. You know, if we lived in nature, we wouldn't have mirrors, we wouldn't have screens, we wouldn't have cameras. You know, we'd be looking at each other, and we would only be every once in a while, like in a glimpse in the water, we might get a little bit of a reflection, but it's not the same thing. I think we're really way too conscious about how we look. And don't get me wrong, I'm including myself in that. Okay, I want to look good. You know, I shave here to look better. I could let it grow and not worry about it at all. I comb both my hairs. You know, I want to look. I put on nice, clean clothes every day. I want to look good too, but I think we can be overly concerned with that. Okay, and I would say I would stop at anything that's harmful to me. If it's harmful to me, that's too much concern. Okay, better to just be comfortable, find a way to be comfortable with whatever your hair color is. We'll wait says, hi, Loren, Merry Christmas. How does someone with candida incorporate fats into their optimal eating while waiting to do a fast with you? Okay, so first of all, Merry Christmas to you too. Thanks so much for your comments. Someone with a candida problem can safely eat fats. There's two ways to do it, and one way I'd recommend. Okay, the first way would be to adopt a ketogenic diet, to eat fats in the absence of anything but fat. Okay, so if you're eating fats, but you're not eating anything else, it's not really going to be so much of an issue. It's still an issue for your blood sugar, but it's much less of an issue if you're not eating the carbohydrates that are going to drive your blood sugar up. So I don't recommend that. That's not a good idea. We are meant to eat carbohydrates. We are fruit eaters. There's nothing better for the body than fruits. We just have to do it correctly. And candida is a situation that we create because of some of the choices we make. Candida happens because of antibiotics and onions and garlic and other issues. This is why people develop candida. We can eliminate this easily and permanently. I did 35 years ago, and I've helped 1,000 clients do the same thing. You can do it too. Okay, and through fasting. In the meantime, what you do, you eat only fruits or fruits with leafy greens, no fats, until your last meal of the day. And for your last meal of the day, you can eat a salad with a little bit of avocado. I would avoid all other concentrated fats, including nuts and seeds, for you. And I would eat a little bit of avocado in every salad, whatever your body can handle. And then ideally, don't eat so early the next morning. Give yourself at least 16 hours before your next meal. That will give your body time to clear the fat out of the bloodstream. You should be perfectly fine. Okay? It should be no problem whatsoever if you do it that way. All right? Mother Sriracha. Consistent farts throughout the fast, an extra reassurance you use to determine a person is getting enough water. Are these farts, as these farts are due to breakdown of old waste? No. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with getting enough water. It just has to do with the breakdown of old waste. You don't need water to break the waste down. You need water to hydrate it after it's broken down. So passing gas in any quantity is not an indication of getting enough water. It doesn't tell us that. Okay? Be clear about that. It doesn't tell us that. That's not what it's telling us. So you want to be clear about that. All right. Rachel Green says, seasonal smiles to you, Loren. Thank you so much, Rachel. I see the heart as well. Thank you so much. Much love to you. Looking forward to speaking with you again sometime soon. And I see there's some other messages here. what happens to your libido during a long fast? Are you allowed to kiss or have sex? So while fasting, first of all, it's okay to kiss while fasting, although you want to protect your water, so you may not want to give up a lot of saliva. But your partner may not want to kiss you while you're fasting because your mouth is likely to not taste so good. And having sex while fasting is not a good idea because it uses too much energy. Okay, I mean, it is possible to be completely passive, but that's probably not that much fun for anyone. And it's still going to use too much energy. So the idea is to conserve your energy as much as possible. The libido while fasting plummets for most people. Most people have very little libido while fasting. That's perfectly fine. Sometimes it can actually spike, but then it usually goes down. It spikes because of toxins in the body that create sort of an aggressive, that aggressive component to sex that sometimes people experience. But generally speaking, as the body is detoxifying, there's relatively little libido. That's a temporary thing. Some people change their diet and say, my libido disappeared. That's because their body's toxic enough that it's been detoxing on an ongoing basis. That can happen for years, for many years. This is probably more information than you needed to know, but I have a very strong and healthy libido at nearly 60, and it's never been an issue. Okay, and that means temporarily while I was heavily detoxing, and then right back, just as good as ever, except now everything works better. I mean, not that I ever had any issues, but I mean, it works a lot better than it does for most people. So I'm gonna stop here with the normal questions because we have 3 super chats, and so I'm gonna go ahead and jump to those because that's the way we roll here. I saw last week someone said, "Oh, he only answers questions if you pay." That's not true. I answer questions at the beginning, and if there's super chats, I go to the super chats. It's not that you have to pay. It's that the people who are making contributions are going to get my attention first. That's kind of the protocol with super chats, at least the one that I've adopted. Right or wrong, that's the way it is. They're making a contribution. I'm going to attend to them. So I've got Ian 444444 who has made of course, 44 pound contribution. Thank you so much, Ian. That's very generous, and I appreciate it. Happy holidays to you. Ian has said, unusually for me, no question today, just immense gratitude and respect for you being here on Fridays to help. I wish you and your loved ones seasonal greetings and a happy 2021 from Thailand. Thank you so much, Ian. I appreciate that so much. By the way, I think I now know which Ian you are. I was always wondering because it was in pounds. Your contributions each week, I wasn't sure, but you're the Ian I know in Thailand. So thank you so much. I appreciate so much all of your ongoing support. I hope you are well and have a fantastic holiday, and wish much love to you and yours as well. Thank you. Okay, let's go down. We have Diane here, who is also a consistent supporter and an old friend. And client and friend. We have worked together and have known each other now for many years. Diane has made a $20 contribution and says, what's your view on what's considered a healthy period if someone is in good health? Sometimes women lose their period when anorexic or under eating. Some say that it's possible to lose one's period when very healthy too. Okay, so let me differentiate between 2 things that often look the same but are not the same. Okay, when a woman is, and again, Diane, first of all, thank you so much. When a woman is anorexic or very underweight, she will typically lose her period. Why is that? So, and when we talk about losing period, most of the time what people mean is that they're not bleeding, right? So they lose the period because they stop bleeding. Now, the menstrual cycle isn't just about bleeding, right? The menstrual cycle is the monthly cycle wherein, at a certain point in time, the body says, okay, you know what, the egg has been sitting there for roughly a month, 30 days, typically for women who are very consistent, and it's time for a fresh egg. Okay, the egg is going to get stale over time. It's time for a fresh egg. So the body flushes out the egg, releases the lining of the uterus to create a new healthy lining, puts a new egg in place, And then there's another opportunity for pregnancy, for a healthy pregnancy, because the older the egg is, the more potentially dangerous it is. And this is why this happens every month, typically every 30 days in women or women of childbearing age. This is why women stop having a menstrual cycle at a certain point in time, because they get old enough where this is much less likely to be a healthy process. Now, obviously, the older a woman is, the later this can still happen. But for most women, once you get past the age of 40 or 45, you start to increase the likelihood of having complications with the pregnancy. All right. So a woman who is anorexic or very underweight, and there can be other issues as well, what happens is the body says, you know what? There's not enough reserves here to safely carry this baby to term in the absence of sufficient food, right? The body, your body doesn't know. I mean, it may well be that you've got like 7 years of food in the pantry, okay? What you call food. I mean, real food wouldn't last 7 years, but you understand what I'm saying. You got tons of calories on hand, and your body doesn't know that. So your body doesn't know that you're never going to run out of food. Your body thinks, look, in nature, sometimes there's not much food. And so what happens is the body wants to be sure that a pregnant woman has enough reserves to be able, if you're going to invest all this time and energy in creating a baby, that you're going to be able to get that baby safely to delivery, right, to childbirth and have a healthy child. When there's not enough fat reserves, the body says, you know what? Right now, for the time being, we're just going to turn off the machinery. So you're not going to get pregnant. You can have all the sex you want under those circumstances without fear of pregnancy, because your body simply has shut down the system. There is no reproduction possible under those circumstances, because the body says, there's not enough reserves here. Let's just not go there for the time being, right? And it can come back later on. Now, when a woman is very healthy, what happens is she doesn't stop menstruating, but it may not be very obvious. So it looks like, to the untrained eye, it may look like she's not menstruating. In other words, there may be no blood, right? She may not have any bleeding whatsoever, because the bleeding that occurs with the average woman's monthly cycle happens because the body says, you know what, we have this amazing opportunity to detoxify. It's one more way to detoxify, right? And I mean, the body's doing it not because it's just a great opportunity, but because it needs to. Remember, the whole idea is to prepare the woman's body for a healthy pregnancy, for a healthy child, healthy childbirth. So what does it do? What does it do? Well, it says, okay, before we go ahead and put that fresh egg in place, let's clean out as much of the garbage as we can. And so it's detoxing heavily during this monthly cycle. And we see the evidence of that. When the body is healthy enough, there may be little or no bleeding whatsoever. But that doesn't mean a woman's not menstruating, because the menstrual cycle, remember, is about shedding the lining of the uterus, dropping the egg, putting a new egg in place, right? This is whole process. And bleeding is just one auxiliary part of it. Okay, it's something that doesn't even need to happen. It just happens sometimes in some cases where things aren't particularly healthy. So it is entirely possible for a very healthy woman to have no evidence, or almost no evidence, right? There's going to be no bloating, no cramping, no emotional ups and downs, and perhaps no bleeding. It may not be evident that a woman is menstruating. It's still possible to tell if a woman's menstruating or not. One of the things you can do is you can check your daily basal body temperature, because your body temperature changes at different stages of your monthly cycle. You can also check vaginal mucus, because it also changes, right? So these things aren't going to change in a woman who's anorexic or severely underweight, because the body has shut the system down. And so there'd be no reason for there to be changes in vaginal mucus. Why changes in vaginal mucus? Because the body wants to create more lubrication at the time when the woman's body is fertile. Okay, this is when most women are going to have the greatest desire for sex, when they're fertile, which is why so many young girls get pregnant the first time they have sex, early, because they're not using protection, and they're having sex, and maybe they're giving in when they're really, really horny, and they're really, really horny because their body's fertile, and so they're likely to get pregnant. Okay, that's one of the things that happens. Okay, I hope this makes sense. By the way, I mean I've had many female clients when Tanglewood started, and back until probably 5 or maybe now 6 years ago, we were still seeing about 70% women here. And this is common. All my friends who are alternative practitioners have always told me that they've seen mostly women, not because women have more health problems, but because women are much more likely to actually take care of themselves. Okay. Now that's changed, at least for me, and it's changed, I think, as a result of the YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is overwhelmingly male, and more men watch YouTube. It's mostly younger men. So we now see more younger men than we used to see, and that's what happens. And so we get more men here because of that. This is unusual right now at Tanglewood. We have, I don't remember the actual numbers, but we have far more men than women. Usually it's about 50-50. In the old days, it was always way more women than men. And this time, right now, we have more men than women. A lot more men than women. It's like 2 to 1, I think, roughly, maybe even 3 to 1, something like that. So that happens sometimes. So I've had many clients, young women, who got pregnant when their doctors told them that they weren't able to, because their bodies were pretty clean, and there was no visible evidence that they were menstruating. Obviously, they could have tested and seen that they were, but they didn't, and maybe didn't know how to. I've got a couple more super chats here, so I'm going to move on. Rachel Green, hello, Rachel. Thank you again. Rachel's made a £5 contribution and said, Merry Christmas, Loren. Can eating too many greens cause nausea? That's a really good question. And it's a question, and I don't say this very often, but it's a question I don't think I've ever heard before. As I think you may know, Rachel, because Rachel and I have also known each other online, not in person, but for many years now. And I've been coaching people for 30 years. I've run Tanglewood now for coming up on 25 years. I work with more than 13,000 clients. There aren't so many questions, and I've done many lectures and seminars around the world. There aren't so many questions I haven't been asked before. I don't think I've ever heard that one. I don't know of anything specific in leafy greens, especially lettuce, which I think is what you're probably focused on, that would make somebody nauseous. Having said that, eating too much of anything can make somebody nauseous. And it's entirely possible that if you are eating enough of one thing, you could be creating some imbalance in the body, some situation where you are going to feel nauseous because of that. But I don't know of something specific, but it could happen with almost anything. So yes, it certainly could be the case. That's entirely possible. All right. Rachel is on a roll here. I see 2 more £5 super chats from Rachel. Thank you again, Rachel, so much. Rachel has said, will I weight restore eating 2 larger meals rather than 3 to give my digestion a lengthy rest and ensure I'm genuinely hungry at each meal? Yeah, it's entirely possible. I mean, there's so many variables that it's a little hard to generalize. But I think some people are going to have an easier time gaining weight eating additional meals, and some people are going to have an easier time gaining weight eating the same number of calories in fewer meals. And honestly, there's various different factors, and I don't think we could generalize and say it's always better to do this or this. I think you may need to see what works for you. So if you've been doing it one way and not getting the results that you want, anybody here, you may want to try doing it a different way. If you've been eating 3 meals a day and having trouble gaining weight, try eating 2 meals, not eating any less food, eating the same quantity of food, but eating it in 2 meals, but thereby giving your body this longer period of time to work on cleansing and healing, etc. and see if that helps, because it has helped some people that I've worked with. It may not work for everyone, but it does work sometimes for some people. Okay. All right. I see, as I'm looking back here to go to the next question, I see I'm glancing at some of the comments in between. And there's a question here, which is Takia Stevens, what age would you recommend for kids to start fasting? It depends on the situation, Takia. My youngest client ever is my godson, and who is now 19, or soon will be 19. And I believe, if I remember correctly, when he was, let's see, I met him before he was a year old. He was maybe 6 months old. He had been born with a heart defect. He had a feeding tube down his throat. He was miserable. He was on medications every day of his life. And we wound up, when he was just not quite 2.5 years old, his parents came to visit me from Europe, and when they got off the plane, he had a fever and sinus congestion and felt nauseous and was miserable. And I suggested that we fast him, and he fasted only for 5 days, but he not only felt and functioned tremendously better, he was able to get off medication for the first time in his life for several months. He eventually did need to go back on the medication because he had a heart valve. He had leaking heart valves. And so he needed a diuretic. But his body was able to keep up with that issue for the first time, all by itself with no medication, for the first time in his life, only after fasting for several months. And then eventually he became overwhelmed again, and he needed to go back on the medication. So that was a 2.5-year-old. I have 2 children fasting with me now, 9 and 11 years old, with their father, and they're doing fine. They won't go as long as their father will, but perhaps they could. Anyway, it just depends on the situation. All right, and I've got one more here from Rachel. Rachel says, hi again. I sent you a message about a consultation time tomorrow. What would cause feeling nauseous drinking water first thing in the morning? Okay, so I'll respond to you about the consultation time tomorrow when I get a chance to take a look. I don't remember what my schedule looks like now, but hopefully we can still make that work. Sometimes other things get filled in the meantime. What would cause feeling nauseous drinking water first thing in the morning? Okay, this one is easier. There are several things that could cause nausea drinking water first thing in the morning. The most likely one, probably for you, Rachel, and for many people, is that you have some stuff in your intestines, material like fecal matter, poop, and when you wake up in the morning, you haven't been drinking all night, the stuff has been dried out a bit, you begin drinking, you begin to rehydrate it right away, and you begin to reabsorb toxins into your bloodstream. Now, it's also possible, and this happens while people are fasting, that if your liver's been cleansing and there is bile sitting in the otherwise empty duodenum, the top of the small intestine, adding water can stir it up and make you feel nauseous. It's, by the same token, if you have sinus congestion, and many people have this on an ongoing basis, the mucus is sitting in your stomach. It's being produced in the sinus cavity, dripping down the throat, winding up in the stomach, and when you drink water, you stir it up. That can make people feel nauseous as well. Okay, so there are several different things here that can cause nausea from drinking water, especially in the morning on an empty system. Now, with the first one, the rehydration of old material, that's more likely to happen for most people later in the day, although you're eating. So it's different with fasting. With fasting, it's usually as the day goes on, we take in more and more water, we start reabsorbing more stuff from the, more toxins from the stuff sitting in there. That's more likely to cause the nausea. But when you're eating, because your body's processing food, it's probably more likely that you're going to have nausea when you drink water first thing in the morning before eating anything. And then as soon as you start eating, what happens when you eat is the ileocecal valve, the pyloric valve at the bottom of the stomach opens. And so the stomach contents, including the mucus sitting there, drop into the small intestine and then keep going. And so you don't have things building up in your stomach or in your intestine. It's only overnight. right? This is why these are things that happen first thing in the morning when you drink water. Later in the day, as soon as you've had your first meal, anything that's there is going to be flushed through with the food. Okay, so it's only likely to be an issue first thing in the morning. And in terms of the reabsorption of stuff, again, it's because you're eating food, your body is not going so deep into this, and you're not rehydrating more stuff all day because your body's processing food instead. And so, it's only going to be an issue first thing in the morning. It's likely to be one of those three things. Okay, that's likely to be what's happening. All right. So I have no more super chats at this moment. Hello, folks on Instagram. Hope you're doing well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll back up, and I'm going to see where it was I left off with questions before and go back to answering questions here until there's another super chat. Okay. Let's see. Where was it? Okay. I think the last one I answered was Shear's question about libido when fasting. Mani, good to see you. Hello from Dubai. Glad to see you here. Shalom Aleichem says, what's your definition of love? Love, first of all, I would say love is what we are. And love is where we want what's best. Love, love extending out from us is where we want what's best for the other person. We're not thinking about our own needs. We're thinking only about the other person. Okay, there are people who say, I love you, but I don't want you to do this or that because it's going to be bad for me. And real love says, I want you to do whatever's going to be best for you in every single instance. Okay, so if I love someone, but she is going to be happier without me or with somebody else or in some other place or doing something different, then I want her to do whatever she wants. Not that I'm not going to be sad in that case, but love means I always want everyone to be doing whatever's best for them in every single instance. Okay, no exceptions. Always look, it's looking at everyone and everything in the most charitable way possible, giving everyone the benefit of the doubt. Okay, it doesn't mean that we put on blinders. If someone is stealing from you and this is what's happening, it's not pretending that that's not happening, but it's looking at the person and saying, okay, so obviously someone who would take, it's one thing, first of all, let's say this person is stealing because they don't have enough food to eat. Okay, you know what? I can understand that. I mean, I don't know that I'd ever do that because I think there's always ways instead, perhaps to make your own way. But let's say someone really feels like they have no other choice. Let's say they have children they can't feed. Yeah, no problem. In fact, if that's what was happening, I would simply say, let me help you. And I would give them what they needed so they wouldn't have to take it from me, right? If that's what was going on. I prefer they ask, but I'd be happy to help if I can. That's, I think, for me, this is love is always looking at everything, and understanding where it's coming from. So again, the person who is doing something that we think isn't okay, it's understanding what's happening for them, right? Who would act out? Who would say nasty things, make rude comments or be unkind? Who would do those kinds of things? Someone who is hurting, someone who's in pain. Okay, so we can love the person. We don't have to love their behavior, but what if every single person was part of the divine creative force of the universe? Okay, that's what I believe we all are. Every one of us is part of that creative force. We're creating everything all the time. We're manifesting everything that shows up all the time because we're part of that divine creative energy. Everyone is, every single person. Okay, so you look at the people, Idi Amin and Hitler, and people like this, they're still divine creative energy. It's just that they were people that were abused and had it rough and never healed from that. And we want to understand that. And still, what do these people need? Like, what do the people who are acting out most need? They need love, right? So what we can do is we can continue to give them love, to see them for who they really are, not from their behavior, but for the divine creative being that's underneath that. Okay? Rachel is back again. And she asks, hang on one second, Rachel has made another £5 contribution here, and said, will eating less variety for a period of time to ease up digestion result in an ability to digest green salads and fats in the future? That, unfortunately, is a question that I can't answer. And let me explain what I mean. Each person is different in this way. So the body is self-healing. Only the body can heal the body, right? If you're here every week, and I know many of you are, you've heard me say this over and over again. Only the body can heal the body. Only the organism can heal the organism. So the question is, now we know fasting is so powerful because it allows us to get completely out of the body's way, right? But how about someone who's not in a position to fast? Either they're very lean, or for whatever reason, they're terrified, whatever it is, they're not going to fast. Okay, so the question is, can the body still heal this way without fasting? If we're eating, if we simplify our meals, can the body heal enough to be able to begin to digest what it wasn't able to digest previously? And unfortunately, the answer is it varies from person to person. There's no way to know. For some people, making the diet light enough means the digestion will heal to the extent it will be able to digest things that it wasn't able to digest before, at least those things that actually belong in the body, like leafy greens, salads, and fats like avocados. For someone that couldn't digest those things, it's possible that simply cleaning up and simplifying the diet may allow that to happen. For other people, it may be necessary to fast before that healing is able to occur. There's no way to say it's always this way, because while every body is going to be healing if we improve the diet, the question is, can this particular body heal enough to be able to do that particular thing? There's no way to know. It's going to vary from person to person. It's impossible to say, if you do that, you'll definitely heal that. Even with fasting, which is the most efficient and most effective way to allow the body to heal, I can never say to somebody, if you fast X number of days, I guarantee you'll heal that thing. I never say that. What I may say, let's say, for instance, if you come to me with hypertension, high blood pressure, I would say to you, well, in 25 years with more than 400 clients, every single one of them has gone from hypertension to below normal blood pressure, except one who reduced his risk of heart disease or stroke by 100%, by going from 176 over whatever to 126 over whatever. Okay, dramatically reduced, eliminated his risk of heart disease or stroke. Still above normal, but pretty powerful improvement, pretty powerful result. So, but there, I'm still not saying. I mean, I would say to somebody, you could be the one exception where we don't see anything change. It's never happened. It's not happening now with the people I'm working with now. I've got 2 people now, probably 3 or 4 people right now. Oh, maybe more. I'm thinking of Skype. Now, of course, I now have 30 people here. So I probably have maybe 10 people working with me right now who were all hypertensive. 10 right now. I mean, I see, this is on an ongoing basis. I've got a bunch of people at any one time who are dealing with hypertension because it's so common. And what happens? Virtually every one of them, right now, every one of them is much lower than when they started. Well, is that always going to happen? It may not, but so far it always has. Okay. The same thing is true here. It's probably, some things we can say that's probably going to work, but it's hard to know. So it's hard to know, Rachel, in this case, if simply simplify, and of course, what does that mean? What that means to each person might be different. When for some people, simplifying the diet means something different than for others. But even if we made the diet as simple as possible, would that guarantee that we would be able to heal that particular issue so we could digest those things we couldn't digest? Not necessarily. There's no way to know that. There's no way to assure that. Okay, I hope that's clear. I'm sure it is, because I probably beat it to death already. So in the absence of other super chats right now, again, just season's greetings to the folks here on Instagram with me. I'm glad you're here. It's good to see you. I hope you're enjoying yourself. I hope this is useful to you. If it is, please like it, heart it. Those of you here with me on YouTube, I see there are 74 people and 25 likes. If you think this is valuable information and you think this is beneficial to you and other people, maybe you can give it a thumbs up as well. You, of course, are free to share this on your page or pages, wherever you like. There's a link here and wherever you're watching it, and there will be a recording available almost as soon as we're done, within a few minutes, I think. So feel free to share that as well. Okay, and I'm going to scroll back up and take questions until there's another super chat, if there is. So let's see here. I just have to find where I was. That's what happens. I scroll down to look at super chats and don't remember exactly where I was. Okay, there's a question here. What have you idea and solution about the current issue around the world? And there's another super chat. And this is an issue, unfortunately, I've been warned by YouTube I cannot talk about, or they're gonna shut me down. And unfortunately, as much as I'd love to talk about it anyway, I don't think there's much utility. This is the way they control us, right? There's censorship, and unfortunately, I can't really say much about it, except that, as I said earlier, it's just another year, okay? According to a Johns Hopkins University study, which was removed within a couple hours of posting it online, fewer people have died in 2020 than in 2019, 2018, 2017, or 2016. Fewer people died this year. What does that tell you? It tells me that maybe it is not what people think it is. Okay, I don't know, but I'm pretty confident about that. All right, Billy Bob has made a $5 contribution. So what are your thoughts on silver as an antibiotic? Well, silver is an effective antibiotic, but let me clarify what that means. First of all, antibiotics, for anyone that's not clear about this, anti means against, bio means life. Antibiotics kill living things. They are poisonous substances which kill bacteria. They're focused on bacteria. Antibiotics don't work against viruses. They work against bacteria. And antibiotics kill bacteria, which we need to survive. Not just to be healthy, we need them to be healthy too, but we need them to survive. We can't even survive without them, okay? We have roughly 10 times more bacteria in the body than we have our own cells. So the problem isn't the bacteria. The problem isn't the pathogen. It never is. That's not the problem. The problem is the terrain. Okay, look at what's happened this past year. Okay, what's going on with this pandemic, right? What's happening is that the vast majority of people dying are people who are over 75 with multiple comorbidities. And I'm not saying there's no young people dying. I'm not saying there's no other people. I'm saying the vast majority of deaths are coming from those people. Okay, it's not because of any pathogen. It's because these were unhealthy people in the first place. And this is always the case. This is why I haven't been sick a day in 34 plus years, because I've been taking care of myself. Okay, as long as we get enough sleep, get enough water, eat the right food, keep the body physically active, et cetera, we don't have anything to worry about. It doesn't mean we're never ever going to get sick. It means we don't have to worry about things. I mean, cancer and heart disease and other things don't happen by accident. It's based on statistics. It's based on probability. We know obesity, right? Obesity is a huge risk factor for COVID-19. Why? Because you cannot be obese and be healthy. Okay, and I'm not here to fat shame anyone. I've got friends who are overweight, in some cases very overweight. Right? They're wonderful people. People can be wonderful regardless of their weight, but don't kid yourself and think, well, you're obese and you're healthy. No, you're not. It's not possible. Okay? A healthy body is a lean body. If you are overweight, your body is not healthy. Your immune function is not very good, and you are much more prone to serious problems. And that's what we're seeing. Serious risk factor. Okay, obviously smokers, serious risk factor. Take care of yourself. Okay, so personally, it's been probably 34 years. 34 years ago, at the age of 26, I'm coming up on 60, so 34 years ago, roughly, at the age of 26, I realized that medicine was making me sicker, not healthier. After 3 years of taking lots of antibiotics. And I made a decision. I'm done with medicine. That's it, period. I'm done. Since then, I have taken nothing but 2 ibuprofen when I broke my hip and couldn't sleep for 5 nights. I needed to relax. I took one. I took one more the next night. I threw the rest away. Those are the only medications I've taken in 34 years. I have had multiple situations where I was injured in such a way that infection was a very real possibility. I was told I would need antibiotics by doctors and nurses. One was a nurse on my staff a couple of years ago. I told her, not going to happen. Now, when I said it's not going to happen, what I meant was, I disagree with you, and I'm not going to do it unless I actually believe I need to. And I didn't believe I needed to, and I was right. I fasted instead and eliminated the problem. So is silver an effective antibiotic? Yes, it'll kill things, but we don't want to do that. Okay? You don't want to take antibiotics unless you absolutely have to. Only if you absolutely have to. I personally would never take them again unless I thought the infection would actually kill me. So far, every time I've been injured in such a way there's been an infection, cat bite, dog bite, less likely to be infected than a cat bite. The thing with the bot fly in my wrist, right? I had larvae in my wrist eating my flesh. I killed them, couldn't get them out. The nurse said, they're going to get infected. You're going to need a minor surgery. You're going to have to take antibiotics. It didn't happen. I fasted. My body expelled them all by itself. That's what it does, or broke them down and get rid of, I don't know. They're gone. I'm fine. Everything's fine. No pain, no problem, right? That's what happens over and over again for fasting, with fasting for me over the decades now that I've been doing this. And so, I mean, maybe someday I'll have some sort of a problem where I'll need to take an antibiotic, and I'll take it if I believe I'll die without it. But I won't take it otherwise. Okay, I won't do it unless I believe it's going to kill me. Because the antibiotics are harming your body. They're destroying your body's immune function. We need those bacteria. They're not the problem. They're nature's garbage men. Okay, you have symptoms when they're alive because they're doing their work of cleansing. We need that to happen. They're not the problem. The problem is the toxic system that attracts the bacteria in the first place. Create a clean system, and there's no home for those specific nasty bacteria, the ones that are believed to be the problem. They're not the problem, but there's no home for them in a clean system, so they go somewhere else, and you don't get sick. That's what happens. Okay, I hope that makes sense. It's time for my next call, so I'm going to wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, Happy whatever. I will be back on New Year's Day. I hope you have a fantastic, I'll see you next year. Hope you have a fantastic rest of the year. And thank you so much, each of you, for being here with me. Thank you for contributing. Once again, if you believe this is thumbs up or like worthy, please do that. And I'll look forward to seeing you again next year. All right? Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Much love to all of you. All right? Bye-bye.